Tokyo's government is making some big changes, but how could this affect Nintendo? So, announced on the 4th of December 2024 was an initiative started by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government to ensure that starting in the next financial year, April 2025, government workers will be able to work flexibly, including with a 4-day week. Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike indicated that this was partly a response to the precipitous drop in Japanese fertility rates often attributed to Japan's workaholic culture. They even have a word, karoshi, for death through overwork. This is certainly not the first policy from a Japanese organization geared towards promoting a healthier work-life balance and perhaps a less bleak demographic trajectory for the country. But what will the effect on Nintendo be? The immediate impact, of course, will be limited. This mandate appears to relate to government workers rather than private sector employees. And while Nintendo do have offices in Tokyo and even some of their key development teams, such as the 3D Mario team EPD8 and Mario Party veterans Nintendo Cube, the bulk of their initiatives will continue unabated. After all, the bulk of their staff is in Kyoto. They have collaborated with government agencies before, of course, such as in 2021, contributing information on their parental controls on Switch to the Cabinet Office leaflet, 4 important things for parents to know relating to online safety, and they maintain compliance with appropriate rules, such as on the number of female directors on their board. Recent changes have brought them up to the required numbers. Any specific changes will be brought before the twice-yearly Global Compliance Conference, in which Nintendo and its major subsidiaries will review with legal personnel any major changes that are required. However, this development speaks to wider cultural change in Japan. The Japanese Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare identified that only 8% of Japanese businesses permit employees to take 3 or more days off each week. However, Nintendo is a little ahead of the curve on this. In 2022, Shuntaro Furukawa responded to a question from investors on working conditions for employees and responded in some detail. He said, "We recognize that in order to achieve a good work-life balance, we need to create ways of working that meet the needs of and work for each and every individual. To offer a diverse work environment, we have introduced a flexible working schedule and have policies in place that encourage the use of paid vacation. We have also made progress in certain initiatives which include improvements in benefits provided to temporary employees, allowing second and part-time jobs, and to further expand existing structures for childcare and caregiving. We also abolished female employee-specific uniforms several years ago, and starting this year, we moved to a more flexible dress code that allows employees to choose clothes suitable to their workplace. You may see employees wearing jackets with the Nintendo logo in media articles. We still keep these jackets to remind us that Nintendo is a company that creates products. We're also discussing strategies to promote the active involvement of women in the workplace." Furukawa-san's final point has certainly proved successful, with an increase in female directors of games just in the last few months evident with Emi of the Smiling Man's Kaori Miyachi and Echoes of Wisdom's Tomomi Sano, a far cry from 2014 when Nintendo's first female director, Animal Crossing's Aya Kyogoko, noted that it wasn't uncommon to be the only woman on the entire team at Nintendo. However, are Shuntaro Furukawa's broader attempts to ensure work-life balance while maintaining the company's core strengths equally successful? It's difficult to truly judge something like this from the outside, as naturally there are strong pressures to mitigate against employees telling negative stories. But as far as we can tell, Nintendo is fairly committed to the goal of having good work-life balance for its employees. In its recent corporate social responsibility Q&A, Nintendo highlighted involvement in a range of schemes in its international branches, such as the Nintendo Wellness Program in America, supporting Ride to Work in the UK, and a protocol in Spain to use lunch subsidies on childcare. In their 2018 Corporate Social Responsibility Report, Nintendo of Europe's head of human resources was, as you might expect, complimentary about the fact that Nintendo was exceeding even the relatively extensive legal protection for parents in Germany, saying, "I have always felt that Nintendo is really flexible when parents request parental leave and want to work part-time. Nintendo of Europe often goes beyond what is legally required and is extremely cooperative when parents, especially mothers, want to change their working hours." In Japan, they are very specific about their objectives, noting that under the revised Act on Promotion of Women's Participation and Advancement in the Workplace that was enacted in April 2020, we have set goals to maintain 100% use of childcare leave by women and increase the percentage of men utilizing childcare leave to 50% or more in terms of cumulative totals over a 5-year period beginning in financial year 2022. As part of these measures, since June 2019, we have been working to promote personal awareness of our childcare leave program and other initiatives for employees who submit a childbirth notice and encouraging them to take childcare leave. In accordance with the revised Childcare and Family Care Leave Law enacted in October 2022, we have also established a program for childcare leave after birth, childcare leave for new fathers. They also refer to broader initiatives supporting work-life balance with core work hours stated as being from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They note that employees have expressed their appreciation for the increased ease of adjusting their work schedule when dealing with international time differences, as well as for the flexibility in picking up and dropping off children and family members for childcare and caregiving services. We also have a working shift interval program that ensures a gap of at least 9 hours between the end of the workday and the start of the following day. Among many initiatives geared towards being pro-family for Nintendo's employees, they offer 5 days of childcare leave annually up to the end of the 3rd or 6th year of their child's elementary school education, depending on the seniority of the employee, childcare leave up to 2 or even 3 years after childbirth, caregiving leave for dependents, and they offer re-employment for past employees forced to resign to provide extended child or family care. A very smart move if you think about the level of investment that Nintendo puts into its employees, which could be lost through more rigid structures. Whether it's all Super Mario Sunshine and Roses in reality is another matter, of course, and podcasters Kit and Krista have shared anecdotes from Nintendo of America's point of view, suggesting that the round-the-clock pressures of a multi-time zone corporation and the strict Japanese work ethic certainly have created an intense environment, and there have been anecdotes, particularly among Nintendo's testers, with reports of testers often being treated as second-class citizens, one telling IGN that you couldn't even really go to the bathroom without someone noticing you were away from your desk. And here is where these kinds of regulations can run to ground. Large corporations are usually able to absorb changes and maintain corporate compliance, but smaller operations may struggle, even though often those smaller companies are often utilized by the larger corporations, especially in the case of Nintendo, which relies on a very large number of smaller outside contractors for everything from game development and testing to manufacturing merchandise. Nintendo has a strong incentive to maintain its own reputation, and there are reports from developers on the early Metroid Prime games who noted that while the first Metroid Prime title had significant crunch, Nintendo heard about it and intervened to stop it happening with the sequel games. A particularly impressive move given that this was 2 decades ago and both the industry and Japanese work culture were in very different places back then. It was only a few years since the Oracle's Zelda titles were accused of sneaking in coded messages into the games about how overworked the team were. Ultimately, this individual shift won't have a major impact on Nintendo, but they are clearly well apprised of the cultural shift in Japan towards trying to promote family policies that maintain their population And in many respects, Japan has had some relative success in the Asian context, with its fertility rate in 2024 being above Thailand, China, Singapore, South Korea, and Hong Kong. Even if future regulations do mandate more flexibility, I suspect that they will be able to either negotiate the required opt outs or demonstrate equivalent or better provision for their employees through their existing corporate structures. Shout out to Diania Floridensis for asking about this. Please do check out the comments, support the Patreon, like, subscribe, and share, and I shall see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.